All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start our fun little stocking treat bag. First thing you'll need is the pattern. So you can get the pattern, there's a link to download it. The pattern, it tells you what you need to cut out 2 of the stocking mirror images, so they're opposite. And then you just need to cut one of the stockings, a circle out of one of the stockings. So I'm just gonna go ahead and trim this out just a little bit. And on this particular pattern, I didn't mention this, but I have a 2 by 2 inch square, and measure that after you've printed. Make sure it measures 2 by 2 so you have the correct measurements for your stocking. Okay, and then I have this really fun kind of polka dot material. I just really love this one. It's super simple. It's a little bit festive without being overly festive. I'm just going to fold it just a bit here so I can cut my 2 stockings out at the same time. And just pin it in place. And then we'll get rolling here. I love mini stockings. I feel like they're super festive without being like overly Christmassy. And they make such good gifts. This is a really fun project because it makes a really good gift for neighbors, for teachers. This is a simple enough project that you could do your teens or even some of your elementary age kids could make these stockings for their friends, just using whatever scrap fabric you might have. It doesn't take a lot of material to make these little stockings, and I love that. You can make a whole like advent calendar even using this stocking. Just have, 24 stockings, each with a different treat or surprise in it. Okay, so there's my 2 stockings. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut out my circle now. So I'm just going to trim it out all the way around my paper. Just like that. Okay, there's my little circle. And then I'm going to mark it on my stocking. Now, I'm not going to mark it on the front because I actually don't want to have to wash this and get my marking pen off. If you have a marking pen that's air or steam, that's really nice. Mine's not. So I'm actually just turning it over, and then I turn the stocking over and I'll draw my circle on the wrong side of the material. Just like that. All right, so I'll put my stocking pattern over. So I have my circle here, and this is actually the first thing that we're gonna sew. So I'm gonna use a small piece of clear vinyl. Now, if you have never purchased clear vinyl or you're not sure where to get it, you can get it usually at your fabric store. It comes on a roll like this. There's like tissue paper in between. A lot of times you can find it in the like outdoor fabric section. So at my fabric store, there's like a section for like interior design materials or outdoor fabrics, like if you wanted to reupholster upholstery fabrics. So that's a lot of times where you can find these. Sometimes you can find them like on a already like packaged roll. You can probably search on Amazon and find it. Anyways, but this is kind of what it looks like. Usually it has like a layer of tissue in between. And I keep this tissue because I'm going to use it in my sewing here. So I just cut out a square of it. You can kind of see that, put on the tissue there. Just a square of it that's similar to the size of my circle. I'm going to cut this down in just a little bit after I've sewn it on. But I'm going to need my vinyl piece and my little bit of tissue paper here. So first thing I'm going to do is, again, like I did with my pattern piece, I'm going to cut my circle out. And this is just going to help me know where I'm going to be sewing on my stocking. And you don't have to be like super accurate on this. You do want it to look like a circle though, so try and do your very best. And this is just kind of like a peekaboo for the treats that you'll have inside. So if you really didn't want them to see the treats, I guess you wouldn't need to do the cutout. You could just leave it plain like this and then all the treats are hiding. Okay, so next thing I'm going to put my vinyl. So I got my hole. My vinyl goes on the wrong side of my fabric. And then I'll put my tissue paper over the top of that. I know that sounds weird, but I promise you it's going to work out. And then I'm just going to pin the edge of the vinyl to my stocking. You can kind of see that. And you could pin on this side too, whatever works for you. Okay, so my stocking, I'm going to put one more pin over here just so he doesn't move. So why the tissue paper? Well, if you have ever sewn on a slippery material like vinyl, you'll know that it moves around a lot, or it'll get stuck in your machines because of the feed dogs. It won't feed through on its own. So if you place a piece of tissue paper, a lightweight paper on the back, in between your vinyl and whatever layer of fabric, it won't get stuck. It won't jam up your machine and it won't make you kind of rip your hair out. So that's kind of my tip for you. So we have 3 layers here. We're going to go ahead and put it in the machine and stitch around. And all right, so I've trimmed my edges around, or excuse me, I've trimmed my threads, not my edges, stitched around the circle. So now I have these layers. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is take off my tissue. And this is nice because it's already perforated because it was sewn on. So I just go around the circle and pull off the edges, and then I just kind of come in here and slip it off with my finger. And do it carefully because you don't want to pull those stitches. And just get all of those edges off. So you can kind of see that. So I have this extra piece of vinyl. There's a lot of it. I don't need that much. Plus, if I sew it now, it'll gunk up in my layers, and I don't want that. So now I'm just going to take my scissors and just kind of trim. Now, don't go right to the edge, but I would just maybe 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch around. Just go around that circle. So it's just a circle now. You can kind of see that. Okay. Now, if you don't like the fact that there is a raw edge, you could do this stocking in felt or fleece, and then it doesn't matter that it's a raw edge. Honestly, it's a treat bag, so I'm not like, oh my gosh, it has to be perfect, no raw edges. If you're worried that it's gonna fray, you can always use fray check before you sew and put fray check around all of the edges. That just will seal it off and make it so it won't fray. Like I said, I'm not super concerned just because, you know, this is just a little treat bag. It's not like, you know, it's gonna get a lot of use and be rubbed up against and hung up year after year after year after year, you know. So, but that's totally up to you what you want to do. Okay, here are my cute sides of my stocking. Now, you could leave it like this, finish up, and that would be just fine. I kind of like to add a little something, so here's our original little example stocking, and I put this cute ribbon around it. I just like how that looks. You could use ribbon. If you wanted to, you could add some lace. You could do some beading. You could put a cuff on it if you want. But I just want to keep it simple, so I'm going to just use some ribbon. And you need maybe 12 inches of ribbon. I don't even think you need that much, but I'm just going to cut those 2 in half. And I'm going to grab my ruler. So I have 2 small sections. Let's even measure them here. These are 5.5 inches long. So there you go. So 12 inches of ribbon would be just fine. I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to measure down 1 inch from the top. And I'm going to use my fabric marker and just mark the edges like that. So you can see one edge, the other edge. And that's how I'm going to know where to start my ribbon. Okay, so I'm going to do the same on this side here. Just like that. Okay. So then I'll place my ribbon right where those marks are so it's nice and straight, and I can pin it in place so it doesn't move. Actually, I'm going to pin it perpendicular like this on both sides so that it'll stay in place just like that. Now I'll do the same thing for the front piece where I have my vinyl. And one more here. There you go. So now they're both pinned in place. Now you could do something else where you could grab an additional color, like if you wanted to add an accent, you could put, you know, see like this, you could do that, would be really pretty to put the black through it, or maybe red. If you had rickrack, you could do rickrack because it would give it kind of that zigzag. If you had beads, if you wanted to put some beading on it, you could even use your embroidery machine or hand embroider someone's name on this. So that's the great thing about this project, is it's super simple, but you can personalize it however you want and make it a little bit, have more of a wow factor to it. But for this particular tutorial, we're just gonna do very simple. So it's pinned on here. I'm gonna stitch across the top and across the bottom to ensure that that ribbon doesn't go anywhere. So I'm just putting it on my machine and using just a regular stitch and stitching across. Now, if you wanted to, you could definitely use even a decorative stitch on this. You could set your machine on one of your cute little decorative stitches and be like, oh, look at that. That's a unique touch, right? You could use vinyl if you have a cutting machine and you wanted to add a name or some like Christmas images like snowmen or snowflakes or, you know, trees or whatever. You could do that as well. I mean, there's so many opportunities here for personalizing. And that's kind of why I love Christmas projects. Okay, so there's that. And now I'm just going to just get my little scissors. Hang on a sec here. There they are. For my, all right, and then I'm just gonna trim the edges. I'm still gonna leave them just slightly longer on the edge. Just like maybe 1/8 of an inch longer than the edge of the stocking. And that's just more for me to make sure when I actually sew the two pieces together that they got sewn in place. If I cut them too small, and you've probably done this before, but if you trim them too small, sometimes when you actually put your seam allowance in, then you look at it and your ribbon is sticking out. It's not sewn all the way in. So see here, my ribbon's sewn all the way through all the layers, but sometimes it'll stick out and that just drives me nuts. So I keep it long just in case. I'm learning from my past experiences. Oops, my thread came out. All right, so let's do this other side. Now, like I said before, if you wanted to make this without the peekaboo on it, you could totally do that and just do a bunch of mini stockings, just tiny ones, and that would be just fine. And that would make a really cute advent calendar, but so would doing all of these little peekaboo ones. You could even do like a little printable that stuck underneath that was like day 1 or like no peeking or something super cute like that. Okay, so there's my 2 pieces, my ribbon's on. Now I'm going to flip them so they are right sides together. Now the other thing that we did not do with this particular pattern, but I actually did do on this one, is I put interfacing on this one because I was kind of testing the waters to see if I wanted. So you're going to notice that this stocking is a little stiffer, where this one's going to be a little bit more loose. And that's totally fine. It's up to you if you want to add the interfacing or not. And that might depend on what you're putting inside your stocking. So if I'm going to put a bunch of candy canes in a stocking, I might want it to interface it so that it might stand up and have like the candy canes coming out and standing up on its own. That would be super cute. For this particular one, I just have a bag of these like mint candies that I'm going to put in there. So I'm not super concerned about it, but that's another option for you. If you want it to be sturdier, use some interfacing. If you want it to kind of be more like a bag, a little bit looser, and I'll show you the benefit of that at the end here. But okay, I'm going to put my 2 layers together here. And I'm going to go ahead and pin them just because I really don't want this to move. Sometimes I can do it without pinning, but sometimes it's just better to pin. Okay, we're going to start at the top and we're going to use 1/4 inch, which is the edge of your presser foot. And I'm going to make sure I back stitch at the beginning, and then I'm just going to follow the edge of my presser foot with my fabric. And when I come to a curve, I'll slow down and just slowly go around that curved edge. I would not go with less than 1/4 inch because you may end up finding that you didn't get all of the layers together. And when we go to trim it and clip it, you're not going to have enough fabric to do that. All right, so I'm at the top again. All right, so this is what it looks like so far. Now I'm going to use my scissors and I'm going to clip around my rounded edges. So why would I do this? I'm going to clip to my threads but not through them. You do this so that you get nice rounded edges and corners, because we know we're sewing it so that it will look like a sock, right? Like a stocking. If I turned it right now, would it look fine? Yeah, it'd be fine. But when I actually go through and every, 1/2 inch or so and clip to my threads, what that does is it allows the fabric to kind of open up. You see how it kind of opens up around that edge? And that allows it, when you turn it right side out, to actually really give this nice rounded edges. So that's actually a very important step. So don't forget to do it. All right, I've done that. Now I'm going to press it. So I'm just going to put it on my presser mat here and just press it good here. And that's just going to help so that that stitching is pressed into the material. All right, now I'm ready to turn it. Oh, and the other thing with this project, if you need to iron or press it, make sure that the vinyl does not touch the iron or it will melt. So you can see I pressed it upside down. I pressed it this direction. So the vinyl's fine. In fact, pressing the vinyl helps to pull out the wrinkles. And I'll show you a little bit more here. So now I have just the end of a paintbrush. If you have a wooden dowel, that works too. You could use a pencil, whatever you've got. And I'm just taking it right along the seams that I just sewed and kind of push those seams out. And you can see how that helped make those rounded edges. It's like magic. See that? So now I'm just going to press this so all those edges are nice. And then you can see my vinyl is nice and unwrinkly, I guess you could say. So if your vinyl is wrinkly, you can press it. Just make sure it's between layers of fabric so that it doesn't melt. All right, there's my stocking so far. It's gonna look so cute. All right, now the top. Now there's a couple things you can do here. You could take your pinking shears to the top and just pink it, and so it has kind of that ragged edge. Would be super cute. You can add some fray check to it if you don't want it to fray, and just leave it as it is, kind of a raw edge look. Or you can do what I'm gonna do and turn it about 1/4 of an inch down, press it, and then just stitch around it. Now, if you wanted to turn it again because you didn't want the raw edges, you totally can do that. But like I said before, this is just a little treat bag that I don't feel like I need to, put so much effort into. People are gonna love it, whether the raw edges are on the inside or not. So because this is so small, I can't put it on the arm of my machine. So I'm actually gonna stitch it on the inside and around. So it's kind of tricky, but it can be done. It's how you stitch like little baby patterns. It can be really tricky, those little arms and legs. All right. Or doll clothes if you've ever done doll clothes. All right, so I've stitched around. All right, there's my cute little stocking. Isn't he adorable? Now I can add my treats. I've got some of these strawberry ones, which are so yummy, that are like Christmassy. And then I've got peppermints, which is always fun. Add some peppermints in there. Oh, that one's broken. We don't want the broken one in the front. Come on now. Gotta make it look good. There. There we go. Aren't those so adorable? Now, like I said before, this stocking has interfacing on the inside, so it will kind of stand sort of on its own. You might have to weight it down a little bit with more candy, whereas this one is pretty floppy, okay? Both are great. As you can see, there's no closure on these stockings, and I did that because stockings typically we hang them, right? So you could add a little loop if you wanted to hang them. But another option you can do is you can get some ribbon, or in my case, a piece of twine. And if you don't use the interfacing, you could actually add your twine and close up your stocking. Now you can close it up really tight like this, or you could do it a little bit looser and just do it more like as a bow decoratively, but it would still keep your candies a little bit safer inside. You could add a little tag with someone's name on it. Instead of doing the ribbon at the top, so if you didn't want to do the ribbon at the top and you just sew the whole thing and then you just use the piece of colored ribbon, like for instance this black ribbon that we talked about earlier, right? You could do like an accent ribbon. That looks ugly right now, but you know what I'm saying. And just add, it just adds a little bit something. But if you do the interfacing, like I said on this one, it makes it a little bit harder to tie because it's thicker. Okay, can you do it? Yes, for sure. But it's just not quite, it's just a little bit different. Whereas this one will really cinch up real tight. So it just kind of is an option for you. Interfacing, no interfacing, adding the ribbon, not adding the ribbon. Again, that's totally up to you as to how you want to do your stocking. And like I said, you could use a piece of ribbon, easily make a loop, add a loop to the edge of your stocking, and then you can hang those little stockings up That would make a really cute decoration, a fun advent calendar, just fun treats to give to friends and family. You enjoyed making our fun little treat bags. I hope they'll bring lots of inspiration to you and yours, and I hope you have a fabulous holiday season. Thanks for watching.